Hello, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in, as always, here. And well, if it's the first time that you've seen one of these videos, welcome. And if it's the 1000th time that you've seen one of these videos, again, welcome, and everything in between. Yeah. We're going to do what we frequently do here, and that's go back to some very foundational and very basic principles. In fact, you could say that the entire course, while it may appear very lofty, it's actually very simple, and it is a statement and then a recasting or restatement of the same ideas over and over again, just like every spiritual tradition that appears here on Spinning Ball of Rock. So it's all foundational. But specifically here, we're wrapping up chapter 20, section 8 of the text. The Vision of Sinlessness is the title of the section. And the last couple of videos have dealt with some paragraphs and passages in that section in particular, which we'll wrap up here today. And I also want to call your attention to the first couple of lessons in the workbook for students, Foundational Basics. And we'll talk about those in a moment. What we're really looking at here as we wrap up this section of the text is meaning, all of the meaning that we've given this wild, chaotic dream of ours. What we refer to as our experience here in the world, what we refer to as our lives, quite honestly. We've given it all of the meaning that it appears to have for us. And what we see as we look apparently out with the body's eyes, we appear to look outward at the world. We appear to look outward at other people, what looks like other people, what looks like a parade of other people at war, at contentious political drama and elections. I live in the United States. Um, yeah. So we've been through that very recently, and I know a number of other countries have too. It's going on all over the world all the time. There's political drama, there's social and economic drama, there is drama within our own mind. And this is what the Course is talking about. As we look, apparently, outside of us, we see division, hostility, and fear. And all of the meaning that we give this reflects what we saw, in fact, inside of ourselves. It is an outward picture, outward appearing picture of an inward condition. What we see within is reflected apparently without. So let's talk about these first two lessons in the workbook for students. And some of you have been through the workbook once or twice, or perhaps more often than that. There are others who frequently begin the workbook and, for one reason or another, put it down and may resume it again later or start back over later. And perhaps you don't have any context for this at all, which is absolutely fine. The very first lesson seems entirely perplexing. So does the second, which we'll talk about, because it's directly relevant to our entire experience here as we run amok believing we're individual human beings, which we're not. You've always known that, by the way. Does not mean that you've always accepted that or believed it or wanted to go there. but you're here and you deserve nothing less. Welcome again. Lesson one in the workbook for students can throw people for a loop, especially if it's the first time, because we often enter into projects and relationships and situations in life with a very enthusiastic mindset, which is great. Then we run into what we're actually getting into, and either it doesn't make any sense or we get into it and we realize, oh man, this is actually a work book. There's something I have to do. Oh man. And that is a very nearly universal reaction at some point. And you may have it right away, and you may have it down the road, but we can all count on that resistance on the spiritual path. No matter what your background is, doesn't make any difference. This course is for everybody. It's totally and completely all inclusive. Something that's universal in theme and application is indeed universal in theme and application, no matter what your background, no matter what your practice currently looks like or does not look like. You're where you're supposed to be, which apparently is right here watching this pixelated image on your screen. That's all that you see here. There's nothing special about the image of a middle-aged man from Arizona. I can, I mean, how common, right? How completely ordinary. I can promise you that. When something lands for you, it's the Holy Spirit. You may count on that 100%. So, lesson one can throw us for a loop because we're going in with this bright-eyed mentality, excited perhaps, thinking, okay, this is going to be really spiritual. It's going to affect profound change. And all of a sudden, you see something that doesn't look spiritual at all. Nothing I see in this room means anything, the lesson one, or nothing I see on this street means anything. Nothing I see through this window means anything. And you may find yourself thinking, what? What is he even talking about? And perhaps you continue on to lesson two. Perhaps, right? I mean, maybe you have had the experience of taking a look at this and thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is weird. What's Jesus even saying here?" And then you hit lesson two. I've given everything I see in this room, on this street, through this window, all of the meaning that it has for me. I've assigned it all of the meaning that it has for me. Implicit in this statement, I made this up. And then we go on in subsequent lessons to work on the idea, I don't know what anything is for, right? I don't know what this pixelated image is for. I don't know what this rug is for. I don't know what this screen is for. I don't know what this cell phone is for. I don't know what this ceiling is for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you may find yourself thinking, okay, what is the relevance of all of this? Why should I even care about that? Well, you're invited to care deeply. It's an invitation. You don't have to. None of us has to do any of this, but we're all here because we've run off and we've attempted to do everything on our own without the certain loving, sure, and kind guidance of our inner teacher. The Holy Spirit is who and what I'm referring to here. We've attempted to solve everything that we appear to see in the world with our own ego lens, thinking we're an individual, and no wonder our plans fail. Even if they're short-term successful, apparently they do not bring us the peace of God. All of our social status cannot confer upon us the peace of God. Money, which is highly useful and handy in the world. And yes, we have jobs because we need it. We got to pay the bills and stuff. We live our normal lives, but understand as you're doing it that your finances can't deliver for you the peace of God, because even if you don't have to work in this lifetime and you're very, very wealthy, things still can bother you. And you still experience the up, down, up, down, up, downs of life, while we all appear to be here and think we're an individual human being, which again is not in truth the case. And you do know that. Again, it does not mean that you have to accept that. You are free to reject every single syllable of this course. But we do so, if we do, right, knowing that we're going to experience more of the same. Suffering, in other words, the ups and downs, the stormy waves, the roller coaster of life. Here as an apparent ego, an individual self-sustaining survival unit grappling and competing for what we deem to be scarce and limited resources on spinning ball of rock. We have all entered the spiritual path because we're tired of this constant yo-yo, hamster wheel, up, down, and we have sought the one thing that every single living thing in truth seeks, the peace of God. It's no wonder that every single living thing seeks the peace of God, whether consciously aware of it at the moment or not. That, in fact, is all there is. So no wonder it's what we're all seeking. We all don't have to acknowledge it at the same time, which accounts for the world that we appear to see when we look out. That is an outward manifestation of an inward condition, hence the critical importance of forgiveness in A Course in Miracles. We go to work in the mind. That's where the work is. So as we forgive, as we extend love, it is not per se about affecting change on the screen of life in the world that appears out there. That's why you do not see language such as manifesting a perfect dream relationship in A Course in Miracles. It's not a course in learning to control and order the dream to make yourself or your loved ones more comfortable in the dream. It's about helping you awaken from the dream and realize the foundational central teaching of this course: there is no world. You may have heard that many times, and should you stick around and choose to study and practice A Course in Miracles, you'll hear it again and again. You will certainly hear it from pixelated image on your screen. I mean, Jesus says it in the Course, and the sentence is punctuated with an exclamation point. Not a period, but an exclamation point. What does this mean? It means we're perfectly at home in God, where we've always been, which you've always known, by the way. I continue to repeat that because it's true. Deep down, that is what has us on the spiritual path. If you've ever thought it to be a mystery, a great mystery, how you're on this thing and you don't really know why, well, it's the Holy Spirit speaking to you. You're answering the call that our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, sends out to every single living thing 24/7. All of the time. You have responded to it, and you have responded to it more than once, or you wouldn't be paying attention to this course. for sure. And it doesn't make any difference if you have the ability to go back and pinpoint exact moments where you thought, gosh, there's got to be more to it than meeting the needs of this. You've always known. I mean, deep down, we've always known you're here because you've been acknowledging this call and answering it. So for that, we all thank you. I most certainly thank you for that. It's huge. And it's huge on a scale, an order of magnitude that we often can't even begin to contemplate. If you contemplate something that's really big, it's bigger than that. So thank you. So what do we do? Well, we relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, who translates our chaotic nightmares into a peaceful dream, in other words. Into happy dreams, we change the way we see everything. What we're doing is we're doing a complete 180 with our perception. A couple of words about perception. Perception is what we call dualistic. It appears to govern our lives here in the world, where we think we're separate. We think we're separate from God, which is not even possible. Not possible. We think, though, we're convinced, and we've managed to convince ourselves that we're separate from God and that we're also separate from what the Course refers to as our brother, other people, and every other living thing for that matter. We see separation, division, and multiplicity everywhere. We don't see things as they really are. The Holy Spirit will teach us, should we choose to follow His guidance, its guidance, to see things as they really are. As they are. We're changing our mind. We're shifting, we're changing our perception. It is upside down. We are turning it right side up. When we have fully 100% and completely changed our mind, when we learn completely to see things as they really are, truth dawns of itself. That's awakening, enlightenment, realization, liberation, call it what you want to call it. God is simply known. We know God, experience, in other words. We can have glimpses of this experience right here while we appear to be in the dream, and many of you have had them. We don't know when or whether that's going to happen, so we continue to show up and forgive and forgive and forgive. What you will find when you do this is you don't see things the way you used to see them. This is a very practical example. Think of whether it is A Course in Miracles or something else, your spiritual practice, whatever that looks like and however long you've been doing it. Doesn't matter. Think about who you were and where you were and what bothered you when you started it. And then think about where you are right now, today. Do the same things bother you? If the same things happen in your life and they do not affect you the same way, or they do not affect you at all, that constitutes what we call in the world progress. It means it's working. In other words, keep going. This can be very, very heartening because we all have these days where it doesn't feel like this is working at all. Surely you can relate. I mean, starting with the first couple lessons in the workbook, thinking, what is he even talking about? Nothing I see in this room means anything. Wait a minute, this shelf full of books means something to me. This means something to me. Oh, I've given it all the meaning it appears to have for me. Yeah. Well, we are on what appears to be a process, and it may seem like a long, long road. Sometimes it does, because we all have these days. We're In the process of learning to relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher, relax and trust, rinse, repeat, relax and trust, forgive, forgive, extend love to your brother, extend love to your brother, wash, rinse, repeat. It's spiritual practice. The results are beyond our greatest imagination, and many of us have vivid imaginations. Well, we all do. I mean, we appear to be here having this conversation after all. That's pretty imaginative. So let's relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher who can turn our nightmares, our chaotic visions, into a happy dream from which we peacefully awaken. That is what the practice of this course looks like. And when you look out and you see political violence, guilt, blame, rage, hostility, and fear, scapegoating, when you see relationships gone south, job situations gone south, when you look out and see geopolitical conflict, hostilities, escalating tensions, and war, when you look out at that, understand that it is simply an error that can be corrected. We accept here, as we study and practice the course, the correction of our inner teacher, who will, should we choose to allow it, correct our perception. Again, we don't see things as they are. We're learning to do just that. We're learning to see our brother as he is, as sinless, as the Son of God. And you can see every single living thing as sinless without sin because there is no sin. You may have been raised in a Judeo-Christian tradition that very firmly, strongly, and repeatedly and emphatically emphasized this idea of miserable sinners. I know this from my own experience in this lifetime, in not one but two, what we could rightly call fundamentalist Christian traditions in the United States. By that, I mean fundamentalist, meaning the prevailing attitude amongst the vast, at times overwhelming majority of the people was our building is the only building. Which, when you look around, even on the level of form, there is no form, there's no world, but even here in the world, it's not the only building. Look, there's a building across the street. How can our building be the only building? How can it monopolize truth? Well, truth is not a property. It's not chattel. It's not something you can pick up and write a title to, like a title to a car or a home, a deed, something like that. No. And I sat there as a kid in Sunday school thinking these thoughts. And when I chose to vocalize them, which wasn't very often for the reason that I was often shot down, I sat through many a moment dreaming of something else, thinking about a football game, maybe. Yeah. Thinking about pizza, thinking about tomorrow's lunch, thinking about all of the homework that was due the following day, which was a Monday, and just sat there wishing to be anywhere else. You know, just because I personally never bought the idea of sin. Why? Because at the same time, and many of you can probably relate to this. At the same time, we're being taught in some traditions that we're miserable sinners worthy of punishment and death. We offend God with every breath. We're also taught at the same time, as I was, that God is perfect love. Now, here's a question you may have wondered. How can perfect love condemn? If you're still waiting for the answer to that, it cannot and does not. There is no separation of any kind. Remember, we're all perfectly at home in God where we've always been, and this chaotic whirlwind that we appear to find ourselves in the midst of is a dream. Now, nobody's saying it's very easy to recognize this, especially when you're in the midst of it, which is why your continued commitment and dedication to your practice is so, so important. That's why I so appreciate your being here today or tonight or whatever time it is. What's going on is we're using this modern technology, which obviously can be used to spread hatred, guilt, rage, blame, and fear, and loads of misinformation. We're using it to share the Holy Spirit with each other. Again, when something lands, it's not a parent middle-aged man from Arizona speaking to you. It's the Holy Spirit who is part of our mind. So let's listen to it. It has a message for us today and every day. So I thank you, as always, for joining me. Questions are inevitable. I mean, they are on the spiritual path, and it doesn't make any difference whether you have a great amount or years and years of experience with this course, or whether you've never opened it before in your life and you stumbled across this video with this weird-looking pixelated image on your screen, going, "Come on, wait a minute, something just resonated with me." Yeah, that's the Holy Spirit speaking to you, and having watched to this point, it's quite likely that more than one message has really hit home, which is the point. Now, the question becomes, what will you do with said message from your inner teacher? Each and every one of us is invited to put it into practice in our daily lives. That is where we learn the best because our experience demonstrates to us and shows us these ideas are true. And if you don't believe it, that's perfectly fine. Try it. But really, try it. And then keep trying it and see, and you will see. All right. Questions are always welcome here. This course raises them, as do all spiritual traditions. So, in that sense, A Course in Miracles is no different from any other. It's just another door that you've chosen to open or walk through, or at least you stand at the threshold and you're peeking through. You're invited to enter. Questions are more than welcome. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do that as well. We'd love to have you join us. The prompt is here in the corner of your screen. It's that icon over here. Just click that. You'll be prompted to join us. Please do. There are many videos that appear on a weekly basis here, several each week, because it's so important to continue to reinforce these ideas. And honestly, there's always something to talk about. All right, so I very much appreciate your being here and joining me. Thank you. I'll see you soon.